Thanks for joining me for another Page 100. This morning I got started on the great new book from the writer of Does My Head Look Big in This? The Lines We Cross. And my first impressions are tumultuous. There is so much going on. It is a timely, topical, interesting story that takes a very familiar convention, that of Romeo and Juliet, and places it with two modern-day teenagers in Sydney, Australia. We have Michael, who is a junior in high school. He goes to a very elite private school, and he's upper middle class. He likes to hang out with his friends and dink around with design software. That's what he'd like to do, is be a graphic designer, play video games, play basketball. And he is, just sort of growing up in the world that his parents have created for him, which is one where his dad is the leader and spokesperson for an anti-immigration group that is gaining a lot of ground and a voice and leading protests and starting to get some publicity for its hardline views on the migration situation as it pertains to the boat people coming to Australia. And he's not sure he entirely believes everything his dad says, but he feels like if his parents really do believe it, there must be truth to it. So at this point, he's been happy to support his parents and be a part of the cause. Then we also meet Mina, who is also about to be a junior in high school and has received a scholarship to the academy where Michael goes to school. She, however, has a very complicated history. When she was 10 years old, she and her mother fled Afghanistan after the Taliban killed her father, and her brother died on the journey out of the country. She made her way via boat to Australia, where she spent quite a bit of time in one of the refugee camps before she was granted asylum, and has since spent the last 6 years a fully immersed part of Australian society. But over the last few years anyway, the political tensions have really started growing, and she's feeling more and more unsure about her place in Australian culture, where she had to this point always felt a sense of relief and home and happy to be a part of her adopted country. And of course, as we go back and forth between the two teenagers as they meet in a sort of star-crossed way, Michael sees Mina across the picket lines at one of the protests and is completely swept away by her beauty. They then get into class together, where they have one difficult interaction after another. Michael spouts off some really bizarre and highly inflammatory comments, showing that he really doesn't know much other than what he's heard his parents say. And Mina steps up and defends herself and refugees and immigrants, but also won't take the role of trying to educate Michael. She tells him he needs to figure that stuff out for himself. And yet, as you would expect, they are both drawn to each other. They are curious about each other. They are attracted to each other. And their better judgment says, stay away, but something is drawing them together. So we've got that brewing. Plus the tensions within their city, the rising tensions within the country, the public versus private school world, and the whole, it's not a boarding school, but it is a very fancy preparatory academy, so there's a lot of politics involved there. And it's just, so far, a very richly woven, interestingly developing story that, again, is taking something as old as the hills, Romeo and Juliet, and making it new and fresh and very timely. I really do like the fact that the book is taking place in Australia. primarily because it's facing head on the actual topics of the day as we look at our borders and our immigration issues and the perceptions that people have about the other and Islamic terrorism and the Muslim faith. But by doing it in Australia, it opens us up a little bit to not being that extra inflammation of making it Republican versus Democrat and Mexican versus, I don't know, Caucasian American, or however we're going to draw these lines. There are so many things that are echoing and that are similar, but it's just got a little bit of distance to it that I think might help both broaden someone's perspectives who's looking at what else is going on in the world and seeing that the same problems exist in other places, but also just taking away again that sort of definite immediacy that might cause some difficulty if it were taking place in modern day America. 100 pages in, I am enchanted. I am looking forward to blazing through the rest of it and seeing how these teens deal with the world as it is unfolding around them and what choices they are going to make about how they want their world to be. I hope when you get an opportunity, you'll pick this book up. I do not think you'll be disappointed. It is going to be just one of those really thought-provoking and enjoyable reads. Take care, and thanks again. We shall see you next time. Bye.